Hey, hope you guys are having a great day. I'm going to talk about kind of a hard subject today. So, the topic is how can I help my kids walk through hard situations, right? How can I help a child through a difficult situation? I'm just going to say this right out. So, if you I don't know, get a little tummy ache or something when you hear about hard situations with kiddos, you don't have to watch this video. Don't do it. I do. I get sick to my stomach when I hear people being mean to kids. So you don't have to watch this video. I'm going to share it though, because I feel like this is something that happened yesterday, and there's knowledge that can be gained through this about how to walk a kid through a hard situation. Okay. So with that, feel free to put your comments in the chat and I will pull them up at the end. Let me check here if I can see them. Yeah, so I have a setting where I can see the chats. So I should be able to see it even while I'm live. All right, so I'm just going to share what happened and what we did about it, okay? So yesterday, Hugo went to the dentist. He was given the responsibility to brush his teeth without me checking last year, and chose not to do a good job. You know, that's a consequence, right? So he had to get 2 teeth pulled. We did one appointment probably about a month and a half ago, and that went well. He had his tooth pulled. It was fine. He had a good attitude throughout the whole process, and after, he was fine. He just was on the numbing stuff and relaxed and let the dentist do their thing. This time it was a little bit different. So Hugo went there with no bad experiences before. Okay. So he had a really good attitude when I dropped him off, and he went back in there. He was happy to go back into the back of the dentistry, and Elwin and I sat in the waiting room, and Elwin got to watch cartoons, so he wanted to sit next to the TV. So we're sitting next to the TV so he could watch cartoons for an hour. All things were good, and then towards the end, I heard Hugo scream, and as a mama, right? What is a whining scream? What's a I'm upset scream? What's a I need help now scream? Okay. Because we just know our kids, we know those different tones of screams and what they mean. And it was I need help now scream, instantly my adrenaline's wow, and fight the urge to smash on the door. I didn't smash on the door, but I went up to the lady at the desk. And I was was that Hugo? Was that Hugo screaming? And she's oh, I don't know. I'll go check. I was okay. Let's go check now. Cause I don't know, mama senses, right? And so she went back there. She was back there for a little while, and she came back and she's okay. Yes, it was Hugo. But he's fine now. He just got timed out. He was just done with them being in his mouth. He's fine. He's laying there quietly. He's almost done. They're just finishing up, and he'll be out in a little bit. I was okay. So she's he just didn't like them putting in the spacer. I was okay. All right, I'll sit back down. And then about 3 minutes later, the dentist came and pulled me into the back office, and because clearly I sent somebody back into them, so he knows I was a little bit concerned, and he pulled me back into the back office. Ellen and I went in there and chatted with him. He said, I knew this was going to be a crying day from the start. I just knew it. And I was okay. And then we were talking about the tooth and stuff, and he's yeah, did you complain about the tooth? I was yeah, he complained once. It was probably 3 weeks ago, but hasn't really complained about it. And we had already planned to have this tooth out because it was decayed to the point where it was getting close to the nerve, so it's a bad cavity. But then the doctor or the dentist, he's well, yeah, well, kids don't complain much because they don't want to get it pulled. So it hurts more than they say. And I was all right, okay. sure, like you're entitled to your opinion. Like I really try to have open conversations with my kiddos, and so I felt like he was honest with me, but that's okay. Like, share your opinion. And then like we had a quick conversation, talked about if we're going to do any further work, and then that was it. And then I went back to the waiting room. Hugo was in the waiting room by then, and he was clearly distraught. And I was like, "Whoa!" Like, okay, like you could tell he's like he had been crying, and he was still like worked up. And so as we finished up, walked to the car, and like as soon as we got to the car, there was like, like when you're like trying to hold it all together and then you can't, kind of thing. That happened in the car, and I was like, oh, like what? What's going on? Like what happened? And he's like, he was really mean, Mom. Okay. And so he's saying like, you keep whining and I'll keep working, and then he was like, Mom, I wasn't whining, I was crying. He's like, I felt the tooth come out, and so like he just like, I feel like the dentist was just pushing, right? And then when like he was talking about like towards the end, he's like, he opened my mouth up way too wide. It's like it hurt really bad, and like I was trying to shut my mouth as hard as I could, but I couldn't because there's metal in there holding my mouth open too wide, and it wouldn't let it shut. And so that's when I heard him scream. And then like I sent somebody back there, and so I was like, Hugo, like I heard that, and I had somebody come back there and check on you, and she said that you were laying there fine. And he's like, yeah, I was, after they took it out, I was trying to calm my body down, which is something we talk about, right? Like when we're all like worked out, we're deep breaths, trying to calm our body down, get back to like an operating level where we can cry. And so like Hugo had a cry, and then we had a conversation, and we took some action that Hugo chose. Okay. And I'll tell you about that in a little bit. So the point of this video is not to like discuss all the things like that went wrong, but it's to tell you that, okay, here's the hard situation. This is exactly what we were walking through, and Hugo's walking through or yesterday. And so I have two things that I want to address about, mindset for the dentist, and then 4 things that I did and that you can do to walk kids through a difficult situation. And these are universal, like even if your situation is not a dentistry situation, these are still 4 things that you can do no matter what difficult situation they are. Okay, but first let's talk about just in mindset quick, okay? So what was told to me is I knew this was going to be a crying day from the start. Kind of the wrong attitude, in my opinion, because like you get what you look for, right? And like if we know something's going to fail, like if you know something's going to fail, do you give it your best effort? Usually it's like we give it way less effort, and then it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy because we're like, oh yeah, like I knew, yeah, this is going to happen. So kind of the wrong attitude. And then also like children are being formed, right? They are becoming adults, and these life experiences are forming them. Okay. So I got to back up a little bit. Hugo was saying, like when in the car, he was telling me, he's like, I was screaming, stop, 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 stop. And the doctor wouldn't stop. Okay. He's like saying, you keep whining, I keep working. And so just like doing a little comparison, like if an adult would say, stop, stop, the doctor, dentist would stop, right? If an adult started screaming as soon as you crank their mouth open, the dentist would stop and check and say, hey, is there like a problem here? Like what's going on? Sometimes like we push over kids because we think that they're being like irrational and over emotional, because sometimes kids can be over emotional, right? But it's just knowing that these kids need to be treated as adults, like no matter what situation, right? because they're forming into adults, and adults who think it's okay to be treated like that don't usually end up in good situations. Okay. So that's just kind of some of the mindset I wanted to address. But here is the 4 things that I did to lead Hugo through this hard situation. And it will apply to no matter what situation you're leading a kiddo through. Okay. So I told him that he has power in his situation, right? We have power to change things. And in our conversation, a quick conversation that we had in the car was, I'm like, well, Hugo, did he treat you with respect? Was it okay, like the way that you were treated? And then I said, you have a choice not to go back. That's you. Like if a dentist or a doctor mistreats you, if they don't respect your boundaries, if they don't listen, then you can fire them and hire somebody else. And so that's kind of what we talked about a little bit. And I gave him the choice of if like, do you want to go back to this dentist or somebody else? And he chose that he does not want to go back. And I'm not saying, do you want to go back to a dentist or skip dental visits forever? No. Like he's going to keep up his teeth and get them clean and nice. And so, but just showing him that he has power in his situation, showing kids that they have power is super important because right where they're developing into adults, we want adults who don't have a victim mindset, who are know that they have power to change their situations, to take their life in the direction that they want it to go. And then at one step further than that, I modeled it for him. Okay. So he decided that no, he wants to see a different dentist. Sorry. And I was like, okay, well then we need to go back in and, have our future appointments canceled. And he, I was like, I can't leave you in the car, you guys. Like, I just don't leave you guys sitting in the car. So he went in. He did not want to go into the office, but there's glass. It was glass doors. So he's in the building, just not in the office with me. And so Ellen and him stood right outside the office doors. And I just politely asked if we could cancel the rest of the scheduled appointments. And not because I don't want to be mean and rude about it. It's just a consequence of what happened, right? So, but I modeled that for him. So he also knows that he has my support. The second thing that I did is we talked about it. Hugh and I talked about this dentist visit, comparing to all of the good dentist visits that he's had. So in 8 years, he's been going to the dentist, and every 6 months. And this is the first not so good visit he's had. Okay. So I was talking about the big group of good here that he has, and how his next visit will be good. So just focusing on that mindset a little bit and making sure that this doesn't become a fear for him. The third thing I did was, and I'm in the process of this one, okay? Keeping open communication with him. So I'm going to bring it up a few times this week. We've already talked about it once in the car. I talked about it last night. I'll bring it up about two to three more times this week. So he knows that he can talk to me about hard situations. He knows that I'm not walled off from tell me all the good, don't tell me the bad kind of thing. We can talk about it all. But that it's also a step for me to be able to keep an eye on his mindset around going to the dentist, because I want him to have a good mindset, right? Not, he has a record of not all of his experiences are negative. So let's concentrate on the good. Let's make our steps to keep the good going, right? Okay. And the last step that I am doing that you can do with your kids too is modeling the peace. Like, yep, it was a sucky experience for Hugo and I, but it's not going to invade our family culture at home. I'm not going to rant and rave about it to everybody I see for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like, we're done talking about it now, except for like for me to do those little quick conversation check-ins. And if he wants to share, if he wants to talk about it, that's fine. But I'm not like angrily spewing at like all this stuff, because I choose to model peace. I choose to show him that, yep, sometimes hard things happen, but we can still have peace, and we can still go throughout our day with calmness, right? It doesn't have to affect how we have dinner, or it doesn't have to affect all the other things that we're doing in life. So if you find this helpful and you want to dig in a little bit more, I have a video that's 3 ways to help reset kids' attitudes. I'll put the link in the description of this video, so you have more resources if you want it. If not, totally cool. One thing that I'd like to end on is that you have power as a parent in hard situations, and we can teach our kids that same power to mold things in the right direction, that even though some situations that we're led into are not the best, we can still choose to show up in the best way possible. So I hope that this is super helpful, and that you take these 4 principles and apply them to whatever hard situation that you are leading your kiddos through. They will help you. And I wish you the best day. I'll talk to you later. Bye.